All right, this is going to be another classic Raw review. We're going to go back to May 3rd, 2004, Showdown in the Desert. The show took place in Phoenix, Arizona. It's Chris Benoit versus Shawn Michaels, arguably the two best professional wrestlers of all time. This is the most heavily promoted match they were ever in a one-on-one matchup. They actually had a match, I believe it was back on February 16th, 2004 to main event Raw, but this had a little bit more build-up. They promoted this as the Showdown in the Desert, this time in Phoenix. At the previous pay-per-view Backlash, they were actually in Chris Benoit's hometown of Edmonton, Alberta. And then, as you guys know, at WrestleMania 20, it was Madison Square Garden full of smart marks. So Benoit was probably the most over guy in both of the triple threat matches. But when you get to Phoenix, they were actually promoting this as the place that Shawn Michaels was born in, because it's true. I believe that Shawn Michaels was actually born in Phoenix because his dad was actually working out of a Air Force base at that time. So yeah, Shawn Michaels is actually born in Phoenix, even though he's is billed from San Antonio, Texas. And yeah, this is a great matchup. I know a lot of people probably don't like the finish. The finish probably puts a dark cloud over this match, and that's why it's kind of, become lost as a underrated classic. But yeah, let's get right down to the first match on the show. We had Evolution. I don't think Flair was on the show for whatever reason. Flair was nowhere to be seen. Can't remember exactly why, but we have Triple H, Randy Orton, the Intercontinental Champion. We have Dave Batista taking on the Red Hot Shelton Benjamin, Edge, and Batista. Yeah, I really screwed that up. Yeah, Shelton Benjamin, Edge, and Tajirji. Tajirji was actually in this match as well. Probably the most high-profile match, at least one of them, that Tajiri's ever been in. Yeah, so just a lot of craziness going on here. Triple H basically wrestled this match with an attitude. He felt like he was above this, and it felt like he was wasting his time, as we'll get to in the next segment with Bischoff. But yeah, you had a lot of, Triple H and Shelton were still, kind of, feuding on Raw. Shelton had upset Triple H, and Triple H fully, still hadn't gotten his revenge back on Shelton. So Shelton still looked, great at that time. When he came to Raw in 2004, he just had an extra spark to him. And, I really feel like one of the reasons why is, him and Benoit, when Shelton got to Raw, him and Benoit were like workout buddies. So I think a lot of Benoit's, a lot of his work ethic and passion really rubbed off on Shelton in a positive way. Edge and Orton just had that really emotional promo a couple weeks ago, the night after Backlash. So in this match, Tajiri actually spit the green mist at Batista, and then Batista was like throwing a hissy fit about that. Edge actually got the pinfall on Randy Orton, so Orton was upset about getting beat by Edge. And then Triple H just felt like he was wasting his time. Triple H did a lot of selling in this match, though. He sold very well for everyone, especially Shelton. He even sold pretty well for Tajiri. So next segment, we had the coach. We had Garrison Cade. You guys remember the coach actually had sunglasses on here. He's a full heel. Garrison Cade, you guys remember he was in a tag team with Mark Jindrak. Then all of a sudden, Vince McMahon randomly shows up, and, Coach is kind of stunned to see him. And so Coach says, "Well, boss, what are you doing here?" He's like, "Well, I'm here to see the art form of what we do. Chris Benoit versus Shawn Michaels." And I'll tell you what, guys, and Vince actually, he had nothing to do with the storylines. This was just, I really feel like, I don't know the truth, but this just came off to me like Vince personally was so attracted to the main event here that he just wanted to sit and watch it from his skybox. He had no involvement with any of the storylines. And hey, this is the biggest compliment you could ever pay a wrestler, and I understand it. You have arguably the best professional wrestlers of all time, arguably probably the best technician, the best technical wrestler in Benoit, and without a doubt, probably the best sports entertainer, the best athlete to a certain degree in Shawn Michaels in a one-on-one matchup here. And yeah, and we'll talk more about it later, but Vince is a huge fan of both guys. But we'll get more into Vince's involvement with the show later, because honestly, that's like the biggest compliment you could pay to a wrestler, is to, just not even involved in any storyline, just to come and watch the match by yourself from the skybox. It's an incredible compliment that Vince paid to both of these guys. And, that's kind of gotten forgotten and lost in the shuffle over the years. Because honestly, I think a lot of people were kind of torn as to how Vince McMahon really felt about Benoit, the wrestler, looking back on it in retrospect. And then we had a segment with Eric Bischoff and Johnny Nitro. At the time, he was John Morrison. That's how Morrison got his start on WWE TV, kind of being a kind of taking over the role that Shawn Morley, Val Venus had with Eric Bischoff. And then you had Evolution. Batista was crying with the green mist all over him. He's like, Bischoff, I want a match with Tajirji. And then Orton is upset because he got pinned by Edge. He's like, I want my revenge on Edge. And then Orton is like, be careful what you wish for, because you just got Edge for the Intercontinental Championship next week. And then Triple H is like, see, this is the, Triple H took a lot of heat for this promo because he was like, Bischoff, I'm wasting my time. I'm in matches that aren't even important, matches that are below me. Like, he even admitted, like wrestling Shelton Benjamin's below me. He's like, I should be in the World Heavyweight Championship match tonight. So yeah, you had that whole segment there with Triple H just throwing a hissy fit about not being involved. And, honestly, guys, like when I look back at a lot of these Bischoff and Triple H things, and eventually I want to review the Raw where Bischoff gave Triple H the World Championship. And it's kind of funny, like the storyline called for Bischoff to like cater to Triple H and always kind of favor him. But actually, in real life, I think it came out that Bischoff was really not a big fan of Triple H, and thought that Triple H never really kind of found his niche as a babyface or a heel, something like that, which I totally agree with. Triple H is a great heel, but I kind of agree to an extent with Bischoff. I think he's trying to say, like, he just didn't see Triple H as, someone that should always be in the championship picture. I think that's the point he was trying to make. But yeah, to be honest, I don't think, like, if Bischoff was running the show in WCW, I don't think he was really ever a huge Triple H fan. And, ultimately, Triple H did make the jump while Bischoff was there. So yeah, that's definitely the whole Bischoff Triple H dynamic. There's definitely two different layers. There's a kayfabe layer and a non-kayfabe layer to it. That I find actually pretty interesting. All right, so the next matchup here we have La Resistance of. This is actually a singles match. You have Rob Conway of La Resistance. Sylvain Grenier was actually at ringside supporting him. Taking on the Hurricane of Shane Helms. The Hurricane actually looked good here. This is before the Hurricane really let himself go, and he was still a good athlete here. Rosie was actually at ringside. So if you don't remember, Rob Conway was actually not really a French Canadian. La Resistance was a French Canadian tag team, but Conway was like a sympathizer, someone that kind of jumped ship. I believe he was actually an American, but I don't know. Conway, Sylvain Grenier, even Rene Dupree. These are like the example of some of the developmental, generic, bodybuilder like WWE talent that was kind of making its way in the, not territorial, but the developmental system at that time. But, I never gave a shit about La Resistance. I really feel like the tag division, especially on Raw in 2004, was really not that good. Eventually I think Edge and Benoit actually beat them for the tag belts. Benoit was actually tag team champion on this show. I actually forgot to mention that, but yeah. I was never a huge fan of La Resistance. Really, I don't know, man. I feel like they really overstayed their welcome. Like, the most memorable thing they did to me was when The Rock came back and cut that promo with them. The promo was about the war in Afghanistan and the weapons of mass destruction. That was a great promo, but I don't know. I was never a big fan of them. All right, so let's move on to the next segment. We had a Kane and Lita video package. The Kane and Lita storyline was very kayfabe. I don't think a lot of people bought into it. It just seemed to me like as soon as Kane unmasked, they felt obligated to always give Kane like a major storyline. But at this point, Kane was already getting stale. I thought Lita just was really not believable in a lot of the storyline stuff here. They had like Kane abduct Lita, and eventually I think Lita got pregnant by Kane's baby. The whole storyline just sucked to me. It's just one of those that no one really believed in. Wasn't a big fan of it. And it really did nothing for Matt Hardy, but just nothing good at all. That leads us to the highlight reel. So Jericho comes out I want to talk about Jericho first. Jericho's actually talking about how he wants to challenge the winner of Shawn Michaels and Chris Benoit. Sounds good. And he said, finally, it's about time. The next challenger in line is not the initials HHH, but it should be the initials Y2J. So yeah, I don't. Jericho never got a title shot here. To be honest with you, it's such a shame. You have Benoit as the champion on Raw. Jericho is on Raw at the same time. I understand they're both baby faces, but it's such a shame that Jericho and Benoit never had a one-on-one match for the World Heavyweight Championship or WWE Championship. When Jericho was the undisputed champion, Benoit was having neck surgery. A lot of Jericho's reigns in the WWE actually took place after Benoit had passed away, especially when Jericho returned in 2008 with a interesting and amazing heel character. So yeah, it's just a lost effort right here with Benoit and Jericho. It's just, I don't know, man. You really could have done a Benoit Jericho feud for the championship, but Jericho had just turned face. Benoit was already a babyface. It's just, I don't know. It's just something I wish had happened. My brother actually, this was like around King of the Ring 2001. He actually posted on his wall. You actually printed it out on the computer. He said Jericho versus Benoit, WrestleMania 18 Iron Man match. And it's funny, like that would have never happened, especially that WrestleMania with all that talent. But yeah, man, it just kind of got me thinking, we've seen Benoit and Jericho have so much history, but never for the world championship. But yeah, so that segment was mainly about Matt Hardy. So Matt Hardy comes out on the highlight reel. And yet Matt Hardy was just not over. Like the fans just didn't buy into this storyline. Matt just lost a lot of momentum. He should have never been drafted to Raw. Matt had a great heel character on SmackDown. That was, I think Paul Heyman even stated that the version 1 gimmick was going to be, one of the biggest things in pro wrestling. But, they had Matt Hardy come out, and then Kane is, making Lita talk to him from like a boiler room. She's basically like kidnapped. She's telling Matt, I never loved you. I never, you never meant anything to me. And Kane is like forcing Lita to say all this stuff. So this whole Kane, Matt Hardy storyline, I just thought it was terrible. And it's interesting how, when the storyline became real, this time with Edge going into 2005, like it set the world on fire. So that kind of shows you that, especially in 2004, it's just one of those things where, the message board, this is like the pinnacle of internet talk on the message board. And I just think at this time, the business was so overexposed, and it kind of reflected in the fan base, especially for a very kayfabe-oriented storyline like Kane and Lita. And then while the highlight reel is going on, Trish Stratus and Christian come out with the new problem solver, Tyson Tomko. Tomko comes to disrupt the highlight reel, starts brawling with Jericho. Christian beats him down. Trish is, mocking Jericho. Trish looked great. She actually lost a lot of weight. She wasn't like showing off the big tits anymore. She was more athletic. She started, doing more yoga. Yeah, and I'll tell you, like, the look in 2004 started to change. The busty, inflated, breast implants weren't really that in anymore. It was more in to look athletic, tone, and just sexy as far as, not carrying a lot of body fat, not carrying a lot of weight. The whole entertainment industry was actually more into natural tits and, athletic looking bodies instead of the hot blondes with the big tits that kind of dominated the late 90s in entertainment. So you could definitely see Trish was trying to transform her physique as well. But she looked great at that time. And it's just a shame the Jericho Trish Christian thing couldn't last longer. They actually had a steel cage match the very next week on Raw. Christian actually hurt his back. He took a walls of Jericho, landed off the top rope from the cage and landed on his back. And I think it really hurt his back pretty bad. And, Christian didn't return until September. So that kind of put an axe to the whole Jericho and Trish thing. But yeah, like I said, guys, it's a shame they couldn't get more out of Jericho in 2004. Whatever the reason, Jericho and Benoit just did not touch in terms of, one-on-one matchups in 2004. All right, so the next up, we have Gail Kim taking on Victoria Victoria is the champion. Gail Kim actually comes out with Molly Holly. Molly Holly has a wig on after getting her head shaved at WrestleMania 20. But yeah, this might have been one of the last times Victoria was involved. It just seemed to me like, I don't really think they used her, going into the end of 2004. So they were slowly de-pushing her. This 2004 might have been her last year. I was never a huge fan of Gail Kim. She came in with a lot of hype. By this time, she had turned heel. And, she just never, to me, like she never really found her, niche in the WWE. I mean, I felt like she was probably better used in TNA, if I'm not mistaken. Like, I think she went to TNA around 2006, and she was just a better fit there. All right, so next up we had Eugene training with William Regal. All right, so, yeah, I guess I'll talk about Eugene a little bit here. But, yeah, Eugene training with Regal, Master Eugene, William Regal. All right, so I'm trying to remember. I think Eugene was supposed to be like Regal's nephew or whatever the hell was going on here. But basically, important thing to know is that there was this guy in OVW for years. Even The Rock said he was like very happy that Nick Dinsmore finally found the character and got on TV because he put in a lot of work. It's just, you know what? All right, so if Nick Dinsmore was in OVW for years and he's a great worker, did you have to give him such a retarded gimmick? Literally, the gimmick was retarded. This was just one of those gimmicks that was just never going to work. I'll give Eugene credit. I mean, I thought he did a good job with the character, but I don't know, man. I just wasn't feeling it. The SummerSlam 2004, which is going to be my next review actually for the SummerSlam, SummerSlam season. But Eugene, I don't know, man. The fans just booed the crap out of him. Over and over, both SummerSlams in a row against Triple H and with Angle. It just seemed like it was just one of those things. It was just, this is one of the things that was just behind with the times. I don't think you could have ever really done this gimmick and gotten away with it. So it's just one of those things where, like, did you really think that was going to work? But Eugene dominated the storylines in the summer of 2004. I mean, he really did. I remember one time I was at the park. And I saw an old friend from high school. I knew he was a huge wrestling fan. So I said, so what do you think of the product lately? He's like, I haven't really been watching it, but I did see that one guy, that retard, blah, blah, blah. Like, so that's what like casual fans were thinking of when you asked him about the WWE in 2004, like some retardy guy on TV. But I understand this guy was a great wrestler, or not a great, but he put in a lot of years. He knew what he was doing in the ring. He was good with, he did a good job in terms of, getting the gimmick over to a degree, but I don't know. I just think it's just one of those gimmicks that would just never work. All right, so then we see Vince McMahon in the skybox, about to watch the art form at its highest capacity, or whatever he said there. And I'll tell you guys, like the whole Vince McMahon, Chris Benoit dynamic is very interesting. It really is. I mean, obviously it's come out that I think Vince said that he would never forgive Benoit for what he did, but I don't really want to focus on, what happened with the Benoit incident. But when you go back to when Benoit was still a wrestler, like Vince was a huge, Benoit fan. I really was. And I'll always be very thankful that Vince, gave Benoit the moment at WrestleMania 20, because I never really thought it would happen. Me and my brother at one time, we thought that, Vince didn't really like Benoit because he was from WCW, thought he was like too small. He should have been champion by now. So I'm like, at certain points, I was kind of torn. How does Vince really feel about Benoit? Vince has always had this reputation of being into bodybuilders and Hulk Hogan, guys that are like larger than life. So it shocked me. There was an interview on Bite This in WWE.com in the fall of 2006. This was basically an interview to tell his side of the Kurt Angle fallout situation where he jumped to TNA, and then someone called up and said, someone actually asked about Benoit, like when's Benoit coming back, and he said he took a sabbatical. Sometimes we just need to enjoy the fruits of our labor. I'll tell you, looking back on it, it went a lot deeper than that. So that was scary. Like looking back on that, I do remember that. But someone actually called up and asked Vince, what's your favorite WrestleMania match of all time? Mine is Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior. And then Vince starts laughing. He's like, ha ha ha, that wasn't really a wrestling match. Where he goes like, well, what kind of wrestling do you like, Vince? And then he goes, I guess, oh, I'm more into the Benoits and the Finleys. I almost fucking fell out of my seat. I was shocked. I was like, did he just say that? Did Vince just say that he's more into the wrestlers? And then I just started saying to him, I said, all right, so he loves the art of professional wrestling. He said that Shawn Michaels doesn't have a peer. He thinks that Bret Hart's the best storyteller of all time. So a lot of these guys that I love, Vince loves as well. He's attracted to the art form. But I just think it's one of those things where, it's kind of like a girl. Like a lot of times, and I felt like this about the girl that I was really attracted to in college. I always felt like a lot of times a girl is not going to pick like the best looking guy. It's like, it's more about them feeling comfortable. It's more about how is this guy going to, fit into my family, my friends, and blah, 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 all this other stuff. And I think it's like the same way with Benoit. Like, even though Benoit's the best wrestler, I feel like he's the best technical wrestler of all time. But, maybe, a lot of times the best wrestler doesn't normally, fit in with, business. Because let's face it, Benoit has a great look, great physique. He's a great worker. But, you could argue that Benoit has Dean Malenko-like charisma and mic skills, and maybe that's what hurt him as well. So sometimes it's all about the fit. You understand that a lot of guys are probably a little bit more marketable than Benoit. So that that whole thing with Vince kind of shocked the crap out of me. But hey, the bottom line is I feel like this is the biggest compliment you could ever pay a wrestler. Just going into the arena and watching it by yourself from the skybox. And then Eric Bischoff. All right, so next segment, Eric Bischoff and Johnny Nitro come out. And they're promoting all these matches next week, Edge and Orton. So the very first Edge and Orton match actually took place very next week on May 10th. I would say that's the most underrated Edge and Orton match. It was actually really, really good stuff. That kind of got lost in the shuffle. They had so many good matches that were better than that year, but that was still a good one. And then they announced Jericho Christian inside of the steel cage, which sealed Christian's fate for the summer. And then Vince starts clapping. So that's how that segment ends. And next up, we have Chris Benoit taking on Shawn Michaels for the World Heavyweight Championship, this time in Phoenix, Arizona. And yeah, man, what can I say? But just great matchup. I thought Benoit and Michaels had great chemistry. It's a shame that the match couldn't take place in Backlash in Edmonton. Shawn could have got some amazing heat on that show, but instead we got it on Raw. This is well promoted. This is the Showdown in the Desert, Phoenix, Arizona. What can I say about it? I mean, it was just, Shawn at the time, he looked a little bit, he seemed like he was a little bit frustrated with Benoit, with some of the things that happened in the match for the ending super kick. I do want to mention this, and it's very noticeable. Like you'll like it seemed like Benoit didn't get up in time for the money shot with the super kick. So Shawn is just like, he's trying to not to let the camera see him, and he's just like, Chris, come on, Chris. So I think Benoit was a little bit late for the super kick spot to end the match. But as far as the actual match goes, Shawn was great from a technical aspect. Shawn paid Benoit a huge compliment on Bite This. He said with Chris, you could really, really feel it. Like you get in the ring with him and you could feel it. Basically, I think what he's trying to say is like, if you're not ready, like Benoit's gonna, make you ready. Like he's gonna bring the best out of you. Like if you don't prepare, like you're gonna be overwhelmed. Like that's how intense and that's how grueling it is to be in there with Benoit. But yeah, I mean, they did some great stuff. Even the Shawn spot where he he does the thing where he does the knee to the guy's nuts. Benoit countered that into a crossface. Shawn goes for the super kick. Benoit does the hat trick of 3 German suplexes in a row. Benoit did some beautiful counters to the super kick. Like I said, there was an awesome spot on the match where Shawn actually suplexes Benoit out of the ring. Benoit lands on his ankles. Shawn goes for the WrestleMania 20 spot, the same moonsault that he hit at WrestleMania 20. That got a holy shit chant. The crowd was pretty good, man. I mean, the crowd was 50-50. I wouldn't say it was in favor of Benoit, in favor of Michaels. You heard cheers, you heard boos for a lot of the offense. When Benoit was doing the Germans, you heard boos. When Shawn was doing the you know, a lot of his comebacks. You heard some boos. I mean, it was just mixed. This is a 50-50 crowd. It was definitely 50-50. You know, it didn't feel like they were in Shawn Michaels' hometown, even though they, you know, JR did say they were in Phoenix where Shawn was born. And, you know, they did some really, really good stuff out of the sharpshooter. So when Benoit beat Shawn in Edmonton at Backlash, he beat him with the sharpshooter. So as he's going for the sharpshooter, Shawn keeps kicking out of it. He keeps kicking away. Ultimately, the ref gets knocked down as Shawn kicks out of the sharpshooter. And this leads to, you know, Shawn finally hitting the super kick as he's screaming because Benoit doesn't get up in time. He's like screaming at Benoit, and as soon as he hits the super kick, Triple H comes out of nowhere, and Triple H pedigrees Shawn Michaels. You know, Benoit gets one arm over Shawn Michaels' chest, and Benoit retains the belt. I mean, you could argue that, you know, stuff like this made Benoit look weak. You know, you could argue that, you know, Benoit actually wrestled Kane at the next pay-per-view, which wasn't the main event. Triple H and Shawn Michaels was the main event in the Hell in a Cell match, but you know, it is what it is. I feel like at that point, the Shawn Michaels Triple H feud really was kind of overdone, but I guess they felt like they needed the Hell in the Cell to really put the cherry on top of that feud. And it was funny. Triple H was mocking Shawn. He actually he gets into the front row and he's standing right next to this college kid. This kid has like a backwards hat on, and he's just like looking at Triple H like in awe. Like, I can't believe Triple H is standing next to me. And Triple H is like, you were that close. You were that close, Shawn. So yeah, man. I mean, the finish. A lot of people probably, you know, are gonna hate the finish if you haven't seen this yet, but you know, it was still a great title victory for Benoit. You know, to be, you know, there's only two matches that Benoit fought Shawn in. They were both in the main events of Raw, but you know, they were still great matches. And this is definitely a rare gem. I mean, you're not going to find two better professional wrestlers in the same ring than Chris Benoit and Shawn Michaels. You know, I just wish it had been better promoted, especially on a pay-per-view. But you know, Triple H has to always stick his big nose in stuff that we want to see. But yeah. That's pretty much it, guys. Hope you enjoyed the review, and I'm out. All right.